Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The question before us is basically, are identity politics skin deep? Well, it depends which way you want to take the question. I would say that they sort of should be skin deep, but we have to face reality and, of course, the kind of influence that they're exerting over us and over our politics and society, certainly not skin deep. So we have to treat it very, very seriously. You mentioned there about the former Chancellor Exchequer being called superficially black. Well, you know, anyone who sort of is in any of the kind of minority groups, say myself being gay, for example, I should love shopping, and I should love disco dancing and Kylie Minogue, and I should think camp is just great, you know, and all of that. And if you don't go along with the more, should I say, fundamental supposed political position you're meant to have, then you become an absolute target. Ask anybody, ask Calvin Robinson, ask anyone who does not fit in the box of what you should believe if you're part of your identity group. That having been said, I'd just like to just touch on a few areas. You mentioned there, Mr. Chairman, that you've done work in the arts. I think that identity politics is actually destroying creativity. I think it is destroying the arts. It's nothing to do with having more people from lower incomes going to the theatre. It's always portrayed in that way. But I would say that ask any novelist, ask any painter or filmmaker, there is now a identity politics thrust, which means that you have to stay in your lane, to use that terrible expression. This, I think, we are seeing already the very first results of a real deterioration in our creative output. Because what you're saying basically is you do not have the right to be imaginative. It wipes out virtually all of the canon. You know, women can't write about men, white people can't write about black people, and vice versa, and all of this. It is profoundly worrying, and this is one of the reasons why I think identity politics is so important, because at the base of it, at the base of so much of it, is a general attack, I believe, on Western cultural values, Western creative values. And I don't think that most of the people who line up as activists behind various different identity groups, I don't even think they actually necessarily care very much, actually, about that particular group. But it's a very, very good way in which to sort of get your way in, and I think to be deconstructive and ultimately to destroy. I think also there is something which I think one of our speakers here, from what I gather from what he's written, might have something to say on this. What I find extraordinary is that what it all amounts to, because it's terribly middle class, all of it, and what it really amounts to, I think, is a kind of attack on working class people, actually. And I speak as a working person from working class roots. I know it just sounds like you wouldn't believe me, but it's the truth. And fact is that in every sort of way, either explicitly or in a nuanced way, it is a kind of attack on the way that working class people have lived, their values, and it's been carried out by relatively privileged people, I would say. So I think that if you're talking about identity politics, and also for that matter, if you're talking about wokeness, which is sort of allied to it, obviously, I would say that we should maybe start thinking about this in a different way, that it's not a culture war, but actually a class war. And it's being waged from above to below. And I think that that is why identity politics, unfortunately, are certainly not skin deep in our system at the moment. I think they're enormously destructive, and I think that I don't think when people say they divide us and it's divisive, I don't think that people who support it actually care about dividing us or not, actually. They just want to attack, right? And so I think it's really, in many ways, left us with a really toxic public atmosphere. Thank you very much. Thank you, Peter. Well, first of all, to address the gentleman at the back there, yes, I do think there's a lot in that. It makes it rather difficult for those of us who see the importance of religion in a society but don't have a religious instinct ourselves. You sort of think, well, what do you therefore do? Because you see how important it is to have this context. And everything about identity politics and wokeness has got religion written all over it, with the exception of forgiveness. There is no forgiveness. It is absolutely, you are cast into hell. I'm just going to try and pick up a few points. The lady here said, wouldn't it be nice, yes, if we all exchange cultures, blah, 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 etc. Yes, it would. Hello, flowers, hello, trees, you know. The fact is they don't want that to happen. Yeah. Right? They don't want it to happen, which brings me to my third point, which is that what we are seeing is also an expression of almost pathological self-loathing. You cannot avoid this. It doesn't exist in huge parts of the world. They wouldn't even understand, and I think good for you, they wouldn't even understand this conversation we're having now. It's a Western thing, and it's mostly the Anglospheric Western side. It is, I would agree with the gentleman here, there is a strong element of attack, a kind of a Gramscian kind of attack. The only problem is it's sort of coming apart a bit at the seams because with a working class movement, they got fed up with waiting for working class people to rebel and go in the streets. So they went into the institution instead. What you have now is all these groups, they're trying, identity politics people, trying to make a kind of rainbow coalition of them. It's just not working. Because one of the groups, for example, has for example, if you're talking about Islam, has a huge problem with gay men, for example. Right? Many other groups have a huge problem with women's rights, for example. Now we're seeing, if any of you are on Twitter, I'm sure you all are, but things such as homosexuality being basically denied by the trans movement. And so basically they are at each other's throats. But that was, the whole point really was to make a kind of rainbow coalition of the so-called oppressed. What happens in that case is that the most marginalized group of society, and I think actually Sean might have referred to it already, are indeed young white working class boys, right? If you want to look at see how white privilege really operates, look at your average university. They are right down at the very bottom of the league, right? And that will be seen as a result. That will be seen as success. So that gives you an idea of what really, I would say, the motive is behind this. Cultural appropriation, which only works one way, by the way, that is almost also evidence actually of the real motive, I think. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Who would like to...
Yes, what I find interesting, just at one point, is that the session was about identity politics, but we actually have come right down to talking about racial politics, actually, and such like, which identity politics is far wider. I mean, obviously the trans issue is huge at the moment. What I'd say is this, what I find, and I don't know whether you'd agree with me, is that the thing that's most insidious about identity politics is that it kind of is a lowering thing. It kind of brings you down, you know? It makes victims of everybody. It kind of crushes your imagination. I think it is the enemy of excellence. I think it's the enemy of beauty, actually. And I think that these are the really important effects that it's having culturally, society-wide. In terms of what we do, then I think that it is a question, actually, of a different legal framework, because we've just done quite a bit of work on human resources and how they work now in companies. They are almost the biggest engine of identity politics going, actually, and they don't get enough attention for that. They have grown massively. So I think one thing that would be very good is if we could somehow make them just personnel offices again, and also change the legal framework so that there isn't a legal way of justifying what often is very, very unfair. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Hello. If you're enjoying the New Culture Forum channel and you believe in our mission, may I invite you to join our membership scheme at the link below or on our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. Our work is more important now than ever, and we have great plans ahead for the future, but we can't do it without your support. From as little as £3 per month, you can help ensure that we continue on our mission. As a member, you'll receive a range of benefits, including access to exclusive content, invitations to our private events, including here at our studios, free copies of our books, and much, much more, including, of course, our famous NCF mug. If you aren't able to become a member, then please help us by clicking this button and subscribing to our channel. It's completely free. Just remember to also click the bell icon so that you can get notifications when we post new videos. Thank you.